stable for our sector.
Federal government directs end to export of liquefied petroleum gas, targets reduction in price. And welcome to the news desk at 6 on NTA News 24. We're live in Abuja. I am Dennis Adegunloye. The major review carried out on some federal ministries with some realignments were among the decisions taken at the Federal Executive Council meeting held this Wednesday. State House correspondent Musbah Damhab joins us now for an update on the outcome of the meeting. Hello, Musbah. All right, we'll get to Musbah subsequently. In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Abdullahi Usman Bello as the new chairman of the National Code of Conduct Bureau. The short ceremony was at the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting this Wednesday. 50-year-old Abdullahi Bello from Gombe State is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants in the UK and a certified fraud examiner in the US. He is a PhD holder in anti-money laundering compliance from the Northumbria University, United Kingdom. Dr. Bello, who has performed roles related to anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, financial intelligence analysis, forensic accounting and financial investigations, promises to bring his experience to bear as he leads the Code of Conduct Bureau. Now, the Senate is of the view that tackling the problem of out-of-school children in Nigeria requires the convergence of stakeholders to come up with comprehensive solutions. It therefore adopted a resolution that a national summit on out-of-school children be convened for participation by the federal and sub-national governments. The Senate Committee on Basic Education and Secondary had, in its findings following an investigation, revealed a lack of synergy of roadmaps between federal and state governments on the issue, and this over the years has affected the attainment of desired outcomes.
This is clearly the future of Nigeria, and I pray that through the National Summit, the resolutions to be implemented, issues to be well highlighted, and then all efforts to be made to bring this menace to an end so that our children can have a better future and not an adulthood in banditry, an adulthood in Boko Haram, an adulthood in fraud. I thank you all.
Still at the House of National Assembly, the House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent cases of collapse of the national grid and provide a report within 3 weeks for legislative action. Adopting a motion of urgent public importance, the lawmakers expressed worry over the development and the attendant effect on the economy. The House stressed that stable power supply is essential for driving economic growth.
The House is regretting that this sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector during the increase in power tariff.
National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikman reports that the House passed for second reading a bill seeking an increase on Federation accounts revenue accruing to states to 20% based on derivative principle.
Same. There are a lot of natural resources. And Mr. Speaker, these resources have not been fully tapped for the benefit of the federal government and the state. When this law is passed, Mr. Speaker, it will encourage states to go into the full development of these natural resources to the benefit of the state, having in mind the revenue derivation they will have.
The bill has been referred to the House Committee on Constitutional Review for further legislative action. Now, about 14,000 students have bagged various degrees at the 39th convocation ceremonies of the University of Ilorin, with 256 first-class recorded among first-degree graduates. President Bola Tinubu, in his message to the convocation, advocated uninterrupted academic calendars across higher institutions of learning in the country to make the nation's education sector more productive. Abdul Hafiz Alias reports is now here to go.
After years of rigorous academic training, these sets of graduates are being awarded various degrees and postgraduate diplomas, having been found worthy in both learning and character. 323 persons also bagged PhDs after years of learning and research. These feats, according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, can only be meaningful if knowledge acquired are used in solving many challenges facing the country. Represented by Minister of State for Education, President Tinubu lauded the enduring academic excellence of University of Ilorin with a promise to make Nigerian universities more responsive through robust educational policies and constructive engagements.
No one gets anything from the global of institution of learning. We have grown beyond that, and we should not return to that path. Our university should always be open for continuous quality teaching, research, and community services to flourish.
Combining this math with being an amazing person will make you light, will make your light to guide the world.
As you step into the wider world today, I urge you to be drivers of positive change.
I want to bridge the gap between mathematics and the application. I want people to see mathematics as an applied subject or applied course, not just theory.
Though it was stressful, but it only shows that hard work pays off.
Of course, exceptional students in various departments and faculties were duly recognized and rewarded.
Let's go back now to developments at the FEC meeting. President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant to his commitment to delivering on his promises to Nigerians. The 8 actions approved by the President include the renaming of the Ministry of Niger Delta Development to the Ministry of Regional Development to oversee the activities of all regional development commissions. The regional development commissions to be under the supervision of the new ministry are the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Southeast Development Commission, the Northeast Development Commission, and the Northwest Development Commission. The immediate winding up of the Ministry of Sports Development and the transfer of its functions to the National Sports Commission to develop a vibrant sports economy. The merger of the Federal Ministry of Tourism and the Federal Ministry of Arts and Culture to become the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy. Now, ministers are reassigned to new portfolios are as follows. Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Minister of State Education, now Minister of State Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Dr. Morufu Olatunji Alausa, Minister of State Health, now Minister of Education. Barrister Bello Mohamed Goronyo, Minister of State Water Resources and Sanitation, now Minister of State Works. Abubakar Momo, Minister of Niger Delta Developments, now Minister of Regional Developments. Uba Megari Hamadu, Minister of State Steel Developments, now Minister of State Regional Developments. Dr. Doris Uzoka Nite, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investments, now Minister of State Finance. Senator John Eno, Minister of Sports Developments, now Minister of State Trade and Investments. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of State Police Affairs, now Minister of Women Affairs. Ayodele Olawande, Minister of State for Youth Development, now Minister of Youth Development. Dr. Salako Isiak Adekunle Adeboye, Minister of State Environment, now Minister of State Health. Ministers discharged are Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, Minister of Women Affairs, Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism, Professor Tahir Maman, SAN, Minister of Education, Abdullahi Mohamed Gwazo, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Jamilu Ibrahim Bio, Minister of Youth Development, and new ministers appointed, and portfolios are Dr. Nintawe Yulwatada, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Muhammadu Megari Dingyadi, Minister of Labour and Employment, Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment. Bianca Odinaka Odumegu Ojuku, Minister of State Foreign Affairs. Dr. Jumoke Oduale, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment at the Ministry of Trade and Industry and Investment. Idi Mukhtar Meha, Minister of Livestock Development, Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. Yusuf Abdullahi Atta, Minister of State Housing and Urban Development, Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Suwaiba Saeed Ahmad, Minister of State Education at the Federal Ministry of Education. This is the News Desk at 6 on NTA News 24. More reports in a moment. Stay with us.
My administration took over leadership of our country 16 months ago at a critical juncture. The economy faced many headwinds and our physical security highly impaired. We found ourselves at a distant crossroad where we must choose between two paths: reform for progress and prosperity, or carry on the business as usual and collapse. We decided to reform our political economy and defense architecture.
Welcome back. Now, imagine a space where Nigeria's artistic treasures converge, where creatives find inspiration and innovation thrives in Abuja. The National Gallery of Arts is turning this vision into a reality, one brushstroke at a time. In this report, Gufan Shaji Gwanyi tells us that the National Gallery of Arts is set to transform Nigeria's art landscape, revolutionizing the industry and raking in billions of dollars.
Paintings adorn the walls of this gallery. These masterpieces showcase Nigeria's rich cultural heritage, blending tradition and contemporary styles. But the National Gallery of Art envisions more, transforming these iconic pieces into a billion-dollar industry.
One of the things this thing hopes to achieve is to see how our local artists will see success and see actual value for their talent. And another thing that we have we've gotten approval from the Honorable Minister is to start issuing out art travel permits. Any artwork that is leaving the country should be registered from the National Gallery that this artwork is not from the national collection, this artwork is so and so. So it has some sort of, documentation that will help support you in terms of custom leaving Nigeria and also value addition, because when you present an artwork and it has some certificates, you know that there's an authenticity.
Art is not just a reflection of life. It is life itself, pulsating with every stroke, every color, and every emotion. In Abuja, Gufan Shaji Ogwanyi, NTA News.
Bit on security now. The Nigerian Air Force has renewed its memorandum of understanding with the Lagos State University, reaffirming its commitment to advancing Nigeria's aerospace capabilities through strategic partnerships. Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, made this known while receiving the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University, Professor Ibiyemi Olatunji Bello, at the headquarters of the Nigerian Air Force in Abuja. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Olushola Akinboyewa, says Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar noted that the renewed MOU is a major step in operationalizing the NAF's broader strategic objective of fostering technical collaborations with the academia to enhance indigenous aerospace engineering capacity. Minister of State Petroleum Resources Gas Ikpo is urging stakeholders in the gas value chain to address the skyrocketing price of liquefied petroleum gas and its attendant hardship on Nigerians. Statements by Louis Iba, spokesperson for the Minister of State Petroleum Resources Gas, says the gas minister issued the short-term and long-term solutions with effect from November 1st, 2024. NMPC Limited and LPG producers are to stop exporting LPG producing in country or import equivalent volumes of LPG exported at cost-reflective prices. He urged MND-PRA to engage stakeholders to create a domestic LPG pricing framework within 90 days, indexing price to cost of in-country production rather than the current practice of indexing against external markets. The long-term solution is to ensure facilities are developed within 12 months to blend, store and deliver LPG, ending exports until the market achieves sufficiency and price stability. The private sector and public-spirited individuals in Nigeria will have to complement government's efforts by empowering and extending a helping hand to the less privileged in society. This was at a program to share palliatives to the less privileged by Divine Care Conglomerate Foundation, a non-governmental organization in Nigeria. Thomas Ogbetere reports.
Divine Care Conglomerate Foundation, an NGO feeding, helping, and needy, has again taken its act of charity to another level. The NGO is currently training some women in different skills like tailoring and bag making as part of efforts to make the less privileged woman self-reliant. Some of the beneficiaries, who could not hide their joy, expressed how Divine Care Conglomerate Foundation has been very supportive.
I really appreciate Divine Care Foundation. I really appreciate. Thank you.
I want to appreciate the President, Miss Prosperity Ojezbolo, for giving us this great opportunity. It's a rare one, and we appreciate it. We're not going to take it for granted.
I've tried, and you have done a lot in this hard situation. We appreciate.
Whatever she do in life, I believe that Almighty Allah is happy with her.
I'm so proud to be empowered by this honorable organization. As you can see, I was taught how to map out this trouser from the length to the hips to the waistlines.
Do you know what it really means to give us this kind of package in this kind of hard situation? Oh God, Mama, may the Almighty God continue to bless you.
The president of the foundation, Prosperity Ojezbolo, who was represented by the coordinator of Divine Care Conglomerate Foundation, Basira Musa Yunusa, says the mission of the foundation is to empower women and award scholarships to as many as possible, amongst others.
We started this training October 8th, and by the special grace of God, we will be ending the first batch by January, because every section is going to last for 3 months.
While pledging to continue to feed and support the less privileged in the society, the president of the foundation called on beneficiaries to take their skills acquisition program more seriously. In Abuja, Thomas Ogbetere, NTA News.
In continuation of the Afridu Descendants Homecoming, a 2-day Global Economic Africa Investment Summit has commenced in Abuja to showcase African products, goods and services proudly. The summit, which had as its theme operating in integrity, was an opportunity for matchmaking between the Afridu investors and their Nigerian business counterparts, with the expectation that substantial deals will be discussed, with the showcase of proudly African products on display. The African diasporas took a tour of various stands to appreciate homemade goods.
Businesses, investors.
Areas of they have indicated is oil and gas, midstream, downstream, OPL, OML. They are very much interested to invest in the oil and gas sector, and they have a credit line of $2.5 billion US.
Most important thing we have to build is trust and relationship. That's the greatest currency we have, is trust and relationship. Once we accomplish that, the investment won't just come from us to you, it'll come from you to us.
We need to focus on agriculture to provide raw materials for our industrialization. So there is a lot that this summit can do for our country, particularly if the focus is on agriculture.
Watching the news desk at 6 on NTA News 24, here is a recap of our top stories. Federal Executive Council approves reshuffle of ministerial cabinets, scraps Ministry of Niger Delta Development and Ministry of Sports Development. National Assembly to investigate recurrent cases of national grid collapse and report within 3 weeks.
This sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector.
Directs end to export of liquefied petroleum gas, targets reduction in prices.
This is NTA News 24.
That concludes the news desk at 6 on NTA News 24. Thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adigunloye.
Nighttime, we set out to bring to you captivating stories that evoke your emotions. For fascinating documentaries and reports on day-to-day issues with expert analysis, tune in to NTA News 24, DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, StarTimes Channel 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
farmer is a craftsman of the highest order. It is said, great farmer, great nation. No farmer, no nation. Yes, let's set the ball rolling to build that great Nigeria where good food is in abundance, affordable and easily accessible. The Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON, is aligning with the vision and aspiration of the administration of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR, and is organizing the Every Home a Garden competition. The competition is under the scope of agriculture of the Renewed Hope Initiative. For the competition, women are encouraged to immediately plant a garden at home, such that the harvest can provide adequate food on their table and enough to give their neighbor. This competition is open to only women. She must be a first-time farmer. The garden must be in her home, and it is open to women in every state of the Federation and the FCT. Interested participants should do a 30-second video and a picture of the garden, which indicates its location, to the office of the First Ladies of their various states. The winner of this competition will be announced in December 2024, and the winner of the competition goes home with 20 million naira. Women, join the train. Be part of the food revolution in Nigeria. What are you waiting for? Let's get to work. This message is by the Renewed Hope Initiative, RHI, an initiative of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, CON.
As your president, I assure you that we are committed to finding sustainable solutions to alleviate the suffering of our citizens. Once again, I plead for your patience as the reforms we are implementing show positive signs, and we are beginning to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Africa Caucus, IMF push for better living standards across the continent. IMF keeps 2024 global growth focus intact, but high uncertainty dominates outlook as the federal government bans cooking gas exports to stabilize soaring prices. South Africa's inflation falls slightly more than expected in September. Plus, oil slips on higher U.S. crude stockpiles. Market watches Middle East. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar, your guide. speed with business development. The Africa Caucus, headed by Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Wale Edule, has reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening Africa's economic resilience as it held talks with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, on how to push better living standards across the continent. The talks, held on the sidelines of the ongoing annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank in Washington, D.C., focus on making progress towards the shared goal to hold for raising living standards across Africa. Eduna and Kristalina Georgieva, Managing Director of the IMF, in a statement noted that Africa is navigating a complex economic landscape. Hence, policy priorities in the region are focused on securing the economic recovery, continuing to address imbalances and creating space for much-needed development-focused investment. The statement further recommended that in countries where inflationary pressures are receding and inflation is near target, there is space to gradually ease towards a more neutral stance in close cooperation with other policies, while further tightening may be required in countries where inflation is still elevated. The exchange rate, where appropriate, should be allowed to play its shock absorber role while mitigating the second round effects of depreciation, adding that fiscal policy needs to find the right balance to address debt vulnerabilities and spending pressures. And now joining us in the studio to really talk about the ongoing IMF and World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C., where the virtually central bank governors and the captains of industry converge on D.C. to actually talk about how to move the world economy forward. It's Mr. Chris Carker. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
And to begin with, the International Monetary Fund has maintained its 2024 projection for global economy, forecasting a 3.2% growth rate despite ongoing uncertainty. What's the most pressing challenge you think policymakers should address to ensure sustained economic growth?
Okay, thank you very much once again. I think globally, the most pressing of it right now is actually has to see that economies of the world, if you know what is really going on, there are pockets of, you call it pockets of troubles going on in some countries, in the Middle East in particular, somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa, is to see how we can actually stabilize this, because whether it is closer to you or not, it has got a trickle effect on your economy in the long run of it. For countries like Nigeria, for instance, our concern would be how to stabilize inflation. In the least, just see how we can sustain this inflation. In other words, reduce the rate of increase of the price rate itself. And if we're able to do that, we're sure we're actually on our way to beginning to have economic stability. But more importantly is the fact that the current ongoing reforms should actually continue, because we are so sure that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel following the current the statistics available in terms of achievements that has come out of that particular ongoing reforms in the country right now.
But can we actually, we so much talk about data and statistics, but if you were to relate this to the common man on the street, you feel, I mean, you have a different perspective to this whole thing. So how can we actually tell the common man in the street that things are actually getting better? Then we should continue with this reforms so that we can get to the place we want to be.
Okay, thank you very much. Before this government came in May 2023, you needed to see our debt statistics, and to tell you that we're actually heading for a very, very bad place at the end of the day. If the new government had come in, let's just speculate it, and say it also continues to borrow to actually finance its development function, I can tell you we have been at a point right now where we're not only able to service our debt, but every revenue we generate, almost about 99% of them will go to servicing the existing and new debt that the government is actually trying to bring in. And what we do begin with that Nigerian will then be like a man, forget that analogy, that leaves some hand to mouth, nothing to save. And that is very, very risky for an economy. So what we have going on at the moment are some form of reforms that are actually helping. If you check our debt deficit at the moment, it has actually improved. As at the end of 2023, we were at about 6 point something debt to GDP ratio. Right now, it has actually improved. We're at about 4.4 thereabout. If you look at foreign reserve as well, it has actually gone up as well. If you check the end of 2023, we were at about 32 thereabout billion US dollars. If you check it today, as at the middle of October, we're at about 38.8 billion US dollars. Yet it might not make sense to the common man on the street, but I can tell you that the only way it will make sense to them is in the long run, which might take a longer time. So for now, the least the government can do is actually try to see how you can bring up social interventions program to actually help people deal with the impact of the negative sides of the ongoing reforms at the moment, and that's what government is doing.
Okay, now let's take this particular story, then we continue our conversation. Now, the International Monetary Fund on Tuesday maintained its 2024 projection for the global economy as inflation continues to moderate, although a high degree of uncertainty surrounds the world outlook. Looking beyond the one-year outlook, the IMF said the global economy faces a feeble period of medium-term growth as it called for a slate of reforms in its latest World Economic Outlook during the annual meetings of the fund and the World Bank in Washington. The IMF forecast the global economy to grow by 3.2% in 2024 and in 2025, unchanged from July's estimates. The IMF also raised its growth outlook for the U.S. to 2.8% this year, owing to stronger consumption and non-residential investment due to large wage gains. In the euro area, growth is expected to pick up to 0.8% due to better exports before rising to 1.2% in 2025 on stronger domestic demand. Falling interest rates are expected to spur economic growth in the UK by 1.1% in 2024 and 1.5% in 2025.
Low-income countries have seen their growth revised downwards, some of it because of conflicts and climate shocks. Now, the decline in inflation without a global recession is a major achievement. Much of that disinflation can be attributed to the unwinding of the unique combination of supply and demand shocks that caused the inflation in the first place, together with improvements in labor supply due to immigration in many advanced countries. But monetary policy played a decisive role, keeping inflation expectations anchored. Now, despite the good news on inflation, risks are now tilted to the downside. These downside risks include an escalation in regional conflicts, especially in the Middle East, which could pose serious risks for commodity markets. Policy shifts toward undesirable trade and industrial policies could also significantly lower output. A sharp reduction in migration into advanced economies, which can unwind some of the supply gains that helped ease inflation in recent quarters. This could trigger an abrupt tightening of global financial conditions that would further depress output. And together, these represent about 1.6% of global output in 2026.
Okay, you've just had the outlook there, 3.2% for globally, and Nigeria is actually around 2.9%, and I think Sub-Saharan Africa somehow similar. It didn't actually specify here, but the thing here is, what do you make of this progress that we're making? 2.9%, is it actually the place we want to be? 2.9%, is it actually, if we could sustain the momentum or at least get to implement some of these reforms, maybe we'll get to a point where we can possibly say, okay, we can maybe achieve the $1 trillion economy in in a very short time.
Okay, first is, I think I had better said, you must understand that you're just predictions, as it were. And the IMF has a global view of issues and then give you what the parameters will be. And it's also helped to economists to prepare their minds against what the eventualities might actually be. Like you rightly said, in 2023, it was actually 2.9 they predicted. 2024, the same thing. And then for 2025, it's about 3.2, which is almost about the average of the global statistics that IMF has also projected. For us, it's actually been progress, because even as at the first quarter of 2024, we had actually reached out about 2.9 thereabout in terms of growth. Waiting to see what will come of it at the end of the year, but I can tell you that with the current ongoing reforms, we might not be anywhere. The margin of difference, if there is any, wouldn't be that much in terms of achieving what has been set before us. The worry would then be that government needs to actually begin to expand this its policies to actually engage more citizens, so that we don't have dissenting voices distracting people's trying to say this is actually not right, but we don't be able to carry the citizen along and say, look, what we're doing is for the long-term betterment of our country, but these are the current challenges we must face. And the worry is that we've had reforms, structural adjustment program in this country before now. There are bound to be dividends from every form of reforms that you carry out. It is the fact that at the end of the reforms, when they are fully implemented, the dividends, everybody begin to get surprised where they divert them to. And like the IMF kind of facility they give to you. There are reforms you are asked to implement. And the idea is at the end of you being able to repay your facility which you are taking from the IMF, which has necessitated the conditionalities, you should be able to sustain them. What we see in Nigeria is once the facilities are paid for, we just go back to business as usual. And so you see that the dividend that should have come from such reforms at the end of the day are actually not seen, or perhaps if they are ever seen, they are not visible to the ordinary Nigerians to begin to reckon with.
Okay, the African caucus is actually calling for, or is actually somehow working with the IMF to see that how they can actually improve resilience in the continent, to see how we could possibly address a lot of challenges that we face today. Which areas do you think that they should focus on so that we'll have the desired resilience and, in addressing most of the problems that we face today?
All right, thank you. I think one cross-cutting is we are all at different levels of development. There are least developed economies within the African Union itself. There are emerging economies. There are also frontline economies amongst us. So we are all at different levels of development. One cross-cutting problem for all of us is that of issues of addressing poverty and hunger. And I think anything that can bring all of them together will be that particular thing. Beyond the fact that it is important to begin to see how you can stabilize, because there are pockets of insurgencies and civil unrest in some of this economy. But I think likely will be that there will be consensus on reforms, initiatives that are required to actually address the issue of the continent hunger and starvation that is actually going on at the moment. And I think every assistance that we can get from the international community to deal with that, I'm sure it will be put on the table at that particular meeting, and it will form a major agenda in that particular discussions.
Now, how do you see the central banks walking the tightrope between the inflation control and growth concerns?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting question, because oftentimes the instruments used to actually check inflations are actually instruments that actually undermines your development. So what the central bank have also found out to do is that their monetary policy rate, which is like the threshold that guides other forms of rate, they have a disaggregated one for the productive sector and for those who are actually consuming. And that way you find that if you disaggregate it, for instance, for merchant banks and make a rate that is different for them, you find that production can still go on, exports can still go on, while at the same time trying to curtail excessive consumption. Unfortunately, the current effort of the central bank has been undermined with the increase in the minimum wage right now, and you find that there's excess liquidity in the market now, other than what they were trying to do initially.
I thought the latest inflation talked about, energy cost, rising energy cost.
That's true. That's true.
Well, we've seen now just a very just when we expect the central bank to maybe start relaxing its monetary policies, and now with this particular increase, what do you expect them to do in the next, probably in the next MPC meeting?
Okay, I don't expect them. It's just to reduce the rate of increase of what they're actually doing at the moment. If you watch the asymmetric corridor, it's almost 150. The other one was 250, 150. It's been going down. So the incremental rate has actually been going down, and the central bank wouldn't do beyond that. But the cost of energy, I think, is government trying to provide some interventions for them to be able to also reduce their cost of operations, because energy costs, electricity is gone up, the tariff rate is gone up, the fuel one is actually gone up. I was hearing this morning that the president was encouraging Nigeria, look, you better switch to CNGs as opposed to using the current energy source that we have as a way of actually going around it. Rather than pay the 1,000 plus, you perhaps might pay 200 naira for the CNG. So government needs to make these things available for everybody, make it affordable, and make this perhaps the shift much more easy for all Nigerians who intend to actually do it. For me, that might be a way around it.
Okay, renewed focus on enhancing domestic resource mobilization is critical to somehow enhancing spending efficiency and developing a domestic financial market. Do you see Nigeria taking advantage of it? Because this is amongst the conversation that the IMF and the World Bank is actually having. Of course, but I'm not saying IMF itself is actually not encouraging. If you check the reports they just released, the Global Economic Outlook, they're also not encouraging countries to begin to borrow externally, because it's actually a huge burden for them. I can tell you that more than 90% of Nigerian resources it generates is actually used in servicing debt, and that is telling on the kind of social interventions program that government can implement at the moment. I think what is really needed for us is to look inwards. There's a huge funds with the pension fund administrators, with insurance companies and all the rest of them, and these are local interventions. These are local source of financing that we can actually leverage on. It wouldn't cost us much, because as the exchange rate, as our naira continue to devalue, cost of servicing these foreign debts also begins to go up, because you actually need more naira to actually pay a small token which you have taken initially. So it's about looking inwards, and that's what the IMF is also encouraging in this their last economic outlook just released in October, is to see how we can leverage some of these institutional financing options domestically to actually kickstart and promote our development in-house, rather than going externally and then staying on a debt burden that you begin to ask for forgiveness sometimes in the future. Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Chris Kaka, for sharing your thought with us. We'll continue to keep a close watch on development while the spring meetings continue to, unfold. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. Now, let's head to energy markets. Oil prices fell on Wednesday after industry data showed U.S. crude inventories swell more than expected, though futures were still up about 2% this week. Traders factor in continued conflict in the Middle East. Futures dropped $1.40 to $74.64 a barrel in early trade, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also shed $1.40 to $70.34 per barrel. Oil had settled higher in the previous two sessions, pairing last week's losses of more than 7%. The decline stemmed from worries about Chinese demand and some easing concerns around Middle East oil supply being disrupted. And now let's take a break. Business Express continues after the break.
Do you know about the federal government's 50 billion naira presidential conditional grant scheme? This program is being implemented by the Bank of Industry. It is a federal government palliative grant aimed at supporting businesses in key sectors of the economy across the 774 local government areas in the country. Already, the bank has reached the targeted 1,000 beneficiaries in each of the 774 local government areas across the country, with each beneficiary receiving 50,000 naira. The beneficiaries include traders, artisans, creative industry, ICT, food and associated services, transportation, and logistics. In addition to this, there is a 75 billion naira federal government MSME loan scheme and the 75 billion naira federal government manufacturing sector loan scheme, which are ongoing. This message is brought to you by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation and MSMEs.
Trip to the commodities market. global stock market issues. Stocks mostly rise as the Wall Street rally stalls. Tokyo Metro shares soar on debut. Bosede Ibamosu has more on global stock market. Of the figures.
Thank you very much, Musa. Hello, welcome to the Global Market Review. European market traded lower this Wednesday as investors in the region focused on corporate reports and the U.S. Treasury yield. We see DAX dipping 0.19%, FTSE 0.60%, CAC 40 also dipped 0.64%. In the U.S., the S&P 500 fell Wednesday, putting the benchmark index on track for a third day as Treasury yields continue their march higher. Nasdaq Composite dipped 0.44%. The S&P Dow Jones Industrial Average dipped 254 points, followed by the S&P 500 at 0.36%. Asian market mostly rose on Tuesday, breaking ranks with major Wall Street benchmarks, while Japanese subway operator Tokyo Metro's stellar market debut boosted investor sentiment. Nikkei dipped 0.80% across 30,104.86, while the Shanghai Composite rose 0.52% at 3,302.80. Hang Seng Index followed at 1.27% across 20,760.15. While it's mixed territory for Africa stocks, with Namibia's overall index and Ghana GSA Composite posting gains, while South Africa, Tunisia, and Kenya dipped at 0.24%, 0.52%, and 0.41%. That's the Global Market Review this midweek. I am Bosede Ebo Amosu. Back to you, Musa.
Thank you, Bosede. Let's now head to military news for civil servants. There are indications that federal civil servants will receive their minimum wage salaries in full by the end of October. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Joe Ajero, disclosed this in an exclusive interview with our correspondent Ladi Bala.
The meeting we had was a meeting that where we all agreed that they must pay by the end of this month, October.
What about the arrears?
The arrears, the same. However, if they so decide to negotiate with their various parastatals and the agencies, to now say we are going to pay the arrears of social dates, they are at liberty to do that.
Regarding state-level implementation, Ajero directed state branches of the NLC to engage with state governments. He commended state governors who have commenced payment of the minimum wage. This development follows the federal government's assurance to sustain payment of the minimum wage award to workers. But that's it. Business Express returns tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Thanks for watching.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around all crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
heart of Africa, where dreams are born and passion is boundless, a new wave of talent rises. In La Liga, these extraordinary athletes are not just playing the game, they're transforming it.
Rodriguez, the man chasing, it's Lamine Yamal! What a magnificent goal that is!
They shine on the world stage. Watch as they redefine football, inspire millions, and make history. La Liga, where dreams become reality.
From the creeks of the Niger Delta to the breathtaking scenery of the plateau. In noonday and nighttime, we set out to bring to you captivating stories that evoke your emotions. For fascinating documentaries and reports on day-to-day issues with expert analysis, tune in to NTA News 24, DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, StarTimes Channel 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703.
For joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Anna Olainka. Let's start with the headlines. President Tinubu approves the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity, appoints 7 new ministers and discharges 5. Federal government gives 60 days ultimatum to its certificate of occupancy title owners to settle all outstanding ground rent and statutory. Plus, Germany's Disease Control Center detects new, more infectious variant of the Mpox virus. A major review has been carried out on some federal ministries, with some realignments announced. The decisions were taken at the Federal Executive Council meeting held this Wednesday. We'll bring you the full package during the course of the bulletin. But let's inform you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the immediate implementation of 8 far-reaching actions to reinvigorate the administration's capacity for optimal efficiency, pursuant of his commitment to deliver on his promises to Nigerians. The 8 actions approved by Mr. President include the renaming of the Ministry of Niger Delta Development to the Ministry of Regional Development to oversee the activities of all the regional development commissions. The regional development commissions to be under the supervision of the new ministry are Niger Delta Development Commission, the South East Development Commission, the Northeast Development and the Northwest Development Commission. The immediate winding up of the Ministry of Sports Development and the transfer of its functions to the National Sports Commission in order to develop a vibrant sports economy. The merger of the Federal Ministry of Tourism and the Federal Ministry of Arts and Culture and Creative Economy to become Federal Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy. The reassignment of 10 ministers to the new ministerial portfolios, the discharge of 5 ministers, the nomination of 7 new ministers for onward transmission to Senate for confirmation, the appointment of Shehu Diko as chairman of the National Sports Commission, the appointment of Sunday Akindari as special advisor to the President on public communication and orientation, working from the Ministry of Information and National Orientation. President Bola Tinubu has sworn in Abdullahi Usman Bello as the new chairman of the National Code of Conduct Bureau. The short ceremony was at the commencement of the Federal Executive Council meeting this Wednesday. The 50-year-old Abdullahi Bello from Gombe State is a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, UK, and a certified fraud examiner in the US. He is a PhD holder in anti-money laundering compliance from Northumbria University, United Kingdom. Dr. Bello, who has performed roles related to anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, financial intelligence analysis, forensic accounting, financial investigation, accounting, and finance, promises to bring his experience to bear as he leads the Code of Conduct Bureau.
I assure Mr. President and the people of Nigeria, I will do my best to make sure that I deal with this huge task that is ahead of me. Like you mentioned, Code of Conduct Bureau is the foremost anti-corruption agency, the first anti-corruption agency in Nigeria, and I intend to deliver on the mandates of the Bureau. It's all about making sure that people, public servants, they behave with integrity, they avoid corruption, no conflict of interest. So that is the aim of it. Integrity, accountability, that is what the duties that I need to deliver. And I promise Nigerians that, inshallah, I'm going to do my best to make sure that I deliver on the mandate of the Bureau. I always say that it's not about the individuals. Everybody can be corrupt in the world. It doesn't matter whether you are in the UK, whether in the US, everybody has a tendency to be corrupt. One of the most important things is the systems that we have in place to check it. So if we have the systems in Nigeria, we are going to deal with this problem. So I assure you that we have the systems, we have the institutions. We only need to deliver on the mandate that is given to us, and then everything will be all right.
His inauguration followed nomination by the President and endorsement by the National Assembly. Earlier, I just told you there's been a major review that has been carried out in some federal ministries and alignment announced. Well, I gave you a brief. Here is the full package by our State House correspondent, Musbahuddin Wahab.
Was ordinarily expected to be a very long one, but it ended up being a very short meeting lasting barely 1 hour, and the duration actually did not determine the outcome of the meeting, because major decisions have been taken which will definitely touch some areas in the country. You have mentioned the realignment, but the major thing coming up now is that 5 ministers of the government of the Federation have been relieved of their assignments, and those ministers include Barrister Uju Kennedy Ohaneye, Minister of Women Affairs, and Lola Adejon, Minister of Tourism. Professor,
all these agencies, and in order to do that, today Mr. President and the FEC decided that all these commissions that have been created and signed by the National Assembly will be brought under the supervision of the SY Ministry of Niger Delta, which is now redesignated as the Ministry of Regional Development. For our people over there in the Niger Delta region, I would like them to know that that has not removed anything from them. The NDDC is still very much in place, which is still under the Ministry of Regional Development, and all other such agencies are there. Just a question of change of nomenclature.
The Ministry of Tourism has also been scrapped. Activities of that ministry are now being brought under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. So that ministry will now be called Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. Now, this is in addition to some other announcements that will follow later in the day.
that now means that there's no fear at all for people of Niger Delta areas. Their agency, which is NDDC, still remains. And let's tell you, other ministers who have been reassigned include Uba Megeri Amadou, Minister of State Steel Development, is now Minister of State Regional Development. Dr. Doris Uzoka Nite, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, is now Minister of State Finance. Senator John Owa Eno, Minister of Sports, which has been scrapped, is now Minister of State Trade and Investment, while Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of State Police Affairs, will now be Minister of Women Affairs. Now, Ayodele Olawande, Minister of State Youth Development, will now be Minister of Youth Development. And Dr. Salako Isaac Adekunle, who was Minister of State Environment, will now be Minister of Health, Minister of State Health, replacing Alausa in that capacity. These are just some of the decisions taken so far by the Federal Executive Council meeting.
Our State House correspondent there earlier in the day. The Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Mohamed Matawali, briefed President Tinubu on the security situation in the Northwest following his 2 operational tours to Sokoto State. Dr. Matawali outlined the notable successes achieved by the Nigerian military in combating insecurity in the region, praising the professionalism and commitment of the armed forces. In his briefing, Matawali emphasized the crucial role the military continues to play in safeguarding the nation. He reaffirmed the government's determination to strengthen the Nigerian Air Force as part of a broader strategy to combat insecurity. The operational tour aimed to restore public confidence in the federal government's efforts to restore peace and security across the Northwest. A statement issued by the Ministry of Defense highlighted the success of the tour, noting his presence, and I quote, along with the Chief of Defense Staff and other military chiefs, led to the elimination of several key bandit leaders, including Halilu Buzu Sububu. This demonstrates the government's determination to flush out bandits and terrorists, end of quote. The minister urged residents of Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, and KB states to remain vigilant and to cooperate with security forces to ensure the success of ongoing operations. Let's turn to other issues. Germany's Disease Control Center says a new, more infectious variant of the Mpox virus has been detected in Germany for the first time. Kolo Mohammed will tell us more.
The Disease Control Center in Germany said the person was infected abroad but did not give any further details, including where the case was being treated. The center only said the case is being closely monitored and adjusting its recommendations if necessary. The first case of the Mpox virus outside the African continent was confirmed in Sweden in mid-August, after which a case was reported in Thailand. The World Health Organization has declared that the increasing spread of Mpox in Africa is a global health emergency. So far, the vast majority of cases have been reported in Congo. Outbreaks of Mpox are currently affecting 18 out of 55 countries in Africa, and official reports say there have been 1,000 deaths as of last week.
Important to remember that we are not dealing with one outbreak, but with several, caused by different strains or clades of the virus in different places.
The total number of suspected cases in Africa since the beginning of the year now stands at 42,438, with 8,113 confirmed as Mpox, according to Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Mpox mostly spreads through close contact with infected people, including through sex. Mpox belongs to the same family of viruses as smallpox, but causes milder symptoms like fever, chills, and body aches. People with more serious cases can develop lesions on the face, hands, chest, and the genitals. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
People displaced by violence in Abuja on the border between Sudan and South Sudan are struggling to cope with acute food shortage in South Sudan's Warab state. Aid agencies there say they lack the funds needed to address the worsening humanitarian crisis.
Jacqueline Ajak is a single mother who lost her husband, brother and sister in violence near Abuja at the South Sudan border 3 years ago. She is now living in a camp for internally displaced people in Mayenabun in Warab State. Jacqueline is a midwife but has no job now, yet she has to take care of several children orphaned by the conflict.
I urge those fighting to stop. You are our sons. You are displacing us, causing us pain, because you are dying by killing yourselves. And the government should intervene and stop the fighting.
Jacqueline Ajak's situation is similar to that faced by many here. Hundreds of people displaced by the conflict in Abuja have settled in Mayenabun. However, they say they haven't been given land to farm on. The displaced persons depend on food aid, which they say isn't enough to feed their families.
I usually go to work in people's gardens, especially those who are harvesting crops. After working, I'm given some produce from the farm, which I bring home, and that's what the family has been feeding on.
Intercommunal violence between two major communities in and around Abuja is majorly over who controls a piece of land that hosts a market located at the border between South Sudan and Sudan. The United Nations says South Sudan still has more than 1.5 million internally displaced persons due to conflict, insecurity, and the impact of climate change in parts of the country. It is calling on international donors to release more funds to help provide more humanitarian aid to the displaced. The UN mission in South Sudan says the government needs to focus on security sector reforms, including unification of former rival armed groups.
The unification remains important. We've seen unification take place without arms. We've seen the collection of arms. We don't know what's happened to the arms which have been collected in the disarmament campaign. So there has to be also an ability to reassure people that those arms are not being recycled.
Displaced people like Jacqueline Ajak are hoping that security will be restored across the country so that they can return to their farms and once again depend on food from their gardens.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned.
We all get that party where they get your back anytime or day. He go carry a matter for head like say na your own. Now so Go TV tanda for your side as your party for correct enjoyment. We not a tear pocket. For this Go TV Super Plus Golden Window, you fit touchlight all the 380 Premier League games, correct local shows, and better film. We day for you. Make your sharply upgrade or recharge your Go TV on top Super Plus to enjoy every today. The Super Plus Golden Window don't come out money now. Not do yourself, oh. Go TV. Love it.
Thank you for staying with us. A federal high court in Abuja this Wednesday ordered the release of Tigran Gambaryan, the detained Binance Holdings Limited's executive from Kuje Correctional Center. Justice Emeka Nwete gave the order after the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Council at Dagba informed the court of the decision of the federal government to withdraw the charge against Gambaryan. Adagba, who held the brief of Ekele Iheanacho SAN, premised the decision on Gambaryan's deteriorating health and diplomatic intervention. The EFCC had, on April 8, arraigned Binance Holdings Limited and Gambaryan before Justice Emeka Nwete of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. They were arraigned on a 5-count charge bordering on alleged tax evasion, currency speculation, and money laundering to the tune of more than $34.4 million. He stated further that the government had reviewed the case and had taken cognizance that Gambaryan, a U.S. citizen, was a mere employer of Binance Holdings Limited, whose status in the matter has no impact. The lawyer equally told the court that the prosecution had taken into consideration some critical diplomatic and international meetings by the federal government, hence the need to discontinue the charge against the second defendant. Delivering the ruling, Justice Nwete granted Adagba's application and struck out the charge against the second and Gambarayan. He consequently adjourned the matter until November 22nd and November 25 for continuation of trial. To legislative matters, the Senate is of the view that tackling the problem or challenge of out-of-school children in Nigeria requires the convergence of stakeholders to come up with comprehensive solutions. It therefore adopted a resolution that a national summit on out-of-school children be convened for participation by the federal and sub-national. The Senate Committee on Basic Education and Secondary had in its findings, following an investigation, revealed lack of synergy of roadmaps between federal and state governments on the issue, and this, over the years, affected the attainment of the desired outcomes.
This is clearly the future of Nigeria, and I pray that through the National Summit, the resolutions to be implemented, issues will be well highlighted, and then all efforts will be made to bring this menace to an end so that our children can have a better future and not an adulthood in banditry, an adulthood in Boko Haram, an adulthood in fraud. I thank you all.
And the House of Representatives has directed its Committee on Power to investigate the frequent cuts of the national grid and provide a report within 3 weeks for legislative action. Adopting a motion of urgent public importance, lawmakers expressed worry over the development and the attendant effect on the economy. The House stressed that a stable power supply is essential for driving economic growth.
The House is regretting that this sad development is coming at a time when the Honorable Minister of Power has given assurances to the nation of a stable power sector during the increase in power tariff.
National Assembly correspondent Mitari reports that the House passed for second reading a bill seeking an increase on Federation account revenue, according to states to 20% based on derivative principle.
It's on the federal allocation that comes to their states. There are a lot of natural resources in the north, in the south, same. There are a lot of natural resources. And Mr. Speaker, these resources have not been fully tapped for the benefit of the federal government and the state. When this law is passed, Mr. Speaker, it will encourage states to go into the full development of these natural resources to the benefit of the state, having in mind the revenue derivation they will have.
The bill has been referred to the House Committee on Constitution Review for further legislative action. In other news, the federal government says it has given 60 days ultimatum to its certificate of occupancy title owners to settle all outstanding ground rent and statutory charges, or else face revocation of their CFOs. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Dengiwa, gave the hint at the 29th Annual Conference of Directors of Lands in the Federal and State MDAs holding in Abuja.
The Federal Minister of Housing and Development is aware that several owners of the title properties have failed to pay ground rent and statutory charges to the ministry for several years now. This non-compliance has resulted in the loss of trillions of naira in revenue to the government. Under the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, this cannot be tolerated, as this revenue is much needed to deliver the renewed hope agenda to Nigerians.
The issue of land acquisition has been problematic in Nigeria in the recent times. So, the 29th Council meeting of Federal and State Directors of Lands with the theme, Equitable Land Stewardship, Challenges of Land Administration and its Impact on Climate Change and Community Rights, is examining and finding solutions to land management and environmental impact in the country.
Basically, the challenges affecting land administration, lack of data, are not considering the vulnerable groups in the society. We are to change, through this conference, the narrative.
This week, we made a historic advancement by ensuring the establishment of a new regime of revised rates for crops and economic trees. This was done to provide fair, equitable, and provide adequate compensation to persons affected by government projects. This was the main focus of the 2024 National Technical Development Forum on Land Administration. Now, the project affected persons will receive adequate and equitable compensation for their crops and economic trees, reflecting the current economic realities.
The dignitaries hope for proper implementation of resolutions at such event to foster desired developmental goals. Papers presented include equitable land stewardship, challenges of land administration and its impact on climate change and community rights. In Abuja, Francis Sudojo, NTA News.
Inclusivity of persons with disabilities will continue to get the needed attention in the public and civil service. Permanent Secretary, Career Management Office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Fatima Mahmood, gave the assurance when she monitored the mop-up Compro examination in Abuja.
The mop-up Compro Confirmation Examination 2024 is to give better opportunities to all visually impaired persons and all civil servants who missed the examination earlier. The examination, which took place at the Public Service Institute of Nigeria, has a total of 178 candidates participating. Permanent Secretary, Career Management Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Fatima Mahmood, said the government is meeting obligations and also creating an inclusive workplace where people feel welcome and comfortable and where they are seen, valued and appreciated for what they bring to the table.
So to make sure that everybody actually gets a chance, you provide level playing ground for everybody to make sure that everybody gets a chance to write and get his confirmation or promotion exams. So that's the effort that the head of service is making. But for them, they have also shared some key points with us where they are uncomfortable. We've taken note. They've made very good suggestions as to how they want to be treated, and we've taken that on board and we'll do that in the next exams, God willing.
Fatima Mahmood said the head of the Civil Service of the Federation is committed to ensuring that physically challenged public and civil servants enjoy a better working environment, make their mark, live their lives, and reach their potential. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
In line with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration, the National Directorate of Employment has opened up its portal for various vocational training in addressing unemployment in the country. Director General of the NDE, Silas Ali Agara, made this known while inaugurating an 18-man implementation committee on skills acquisition, says the program will provide training and equip the youths with valuable skills to enhance their proficiency in contributing to national development.
By the special grace of God, we should commence full training of all participants. I want to charge this committee not to let the youth of this country down, not to let our president down, and not to let the name that ND has built over the time. We must ensure that that minimum numbers of 10 per electoral roll must be respected.
Between the ages of 18 to 35 years are expected to participate in the 3-month program, which will cut across the 36 states and the FCT. And that concludes the news. Thank you very much for your time. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Anna Olainka. Bye.
Visit our office at NTA headquarters Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, we see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
From the creeks of the Niger Delta to the breathtaking scenery of the plateau, in noonday and nighttime, we set out to bring to you captivating stories that evoke your emotions. For fascinating documentaries and reports on day-to-day issues with expert analysis, tune in to NTA News 24, DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, StarTimes Channel 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods and services. So partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24, news and more news.
The Code of Conduct Bureau is a vital institution with the primary objectives of enforcing asset declaration to prevent corruption and promote transparency, with key functions which involve receiving and verifying asset declarations, investigating misconduct complaints, prosecuting offenders, among others. By so doing, the CCB protects public interest, enhances public trust, and supports Nigeria's anti-corruption efforts, playing a critical role in promoting good governance and accountability. The new chairman of the Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, in Nigeria faces a critical mandate to restore public trust and effectiveness in the Bureau. A key agenda item should be to intensify asset declaration enforcement, ensuring public officials comply with the requirement to declare their assets, enhancing collaboration with other anti-corruption agencies such as the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, is vital. This synergy will facilitate seamless investigation and prosecution of corruption cases. closing loopholes for offenders to exploit. Regular joint operations and information sharing will strengthen Nigeria's anti-corruption efforts. On today's program, we set agenda for the newly appointed chairman of Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB. Thanks for joining us. This is Nigeria Today, and I am Ikaria Clinton. Now, joining us in the studio to discuss set agenda for the new chairman of the CCB is Abdullahi Ibrahim Jallo. He's a lawyer and a public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Nikeria, you are welcome. And the general public that watches NTA, we are extending our regards to them.
And joining us via Zoom is Reverend David Owolo. He's Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEJ. You're welcome to Nigeria Today. Okay, I'll start with you, Ibrahim. You know, the new chairman is there. We have, of course, the new leadership of the Code of Conduct Bureau. Now, in what areas do you think the new chairman should, give attention as a matter of urgency?
Well, Mrs. Korea and the general public, in the first place, the new chairman, Barrister Menasara Kogo, is a whole house name?
No, it's not a Menasara Kogo. We have another person for that. I think Menasara Kogo should be the Code of Conduct Tribunal.
Okay. Let's put things correct. You see, one of the challenges I have mentioned of it the other time when I was here is the law that establishes the Code of Conduct. And the new chairman will certainly face a lot of challenges, particularly the law that establishes the Code of Conduct vis-a-vis the sophistication of people in terms of circumventing the law for public interest. What I mean here is that, you know, Code of Conduct, Kyria, is known to you as a Nigerian. You sign your declaration of assets when you become a minister or otherwise. And unfortunately, you can only sign it again when you are about to leave, which means there is a vacuum. If the chairman assumes office, the expectations of Nigerians is for him to quickly go to the National Assembly that, yes, as it is now, I'm the chairman, and I came to you to look at the laws that establishes the Code of Conduct so that Nigerians will have a lot of confidence that a new chairman has come on board and he is all out to do the needful. Needful in the sense that if we need to have public confidence, especially in the Code of Conduct, if I assume office and then I spend about 6 months or 1 year or something thereabout, there is a need for the law to allow me to be reassessed, to see what I have written before assuming the office. Legally or illegally, have I added another items within the commensurate salary I am collecting, or within the means that the laws allowed me to be what I'm earning. But as it is now, what suffers us a lot in the country, most of important laws that need to be amended, when you take it for amendment or otherwise, it may end up not seeing the day, the light of the day.
Now, thank you very much, Jallo. By the way, just for clarification, the new chairman happens to be even your namesake, Abdullahi Usman Bello. That's the name of the new chairman.
Well, I have
Conduct Bureau. now, still talking about this thing. Okay, it's Reverend David Ugolo with us now. Okay, now, Reverend David, like we made mention in our introduction, the new chairman, of course, has a mandate to restore public trusts, which is, of course, talking about the asset declaration and all of that. Now, what are your expectations from the new leadership? I know we had an old leadership, quite a lot of things happened in the past. Now, what are your expectations for this new leadership?
Again, thank you, Ukiri. Thanks for the opportunity to intervene for these very important conversations around the new chairman that has been appointed in CCB. No doubt, the time of his appointment coincides with when Nigerians, the level of trust for government is very low. And so the expectation from the public is high. And so our expectation is that he will rise up to the challenge. I recall when the appointment was made by the president, in the press release, the press media people to the president made it very clear that they expect him to provide opportunity to drive home integrity and to strengthen the ethics of public civil service workers, civil servants in the country. So the expectation from Nigerians from this appointment are clear. The first one is to first help send a very strong message to public officials that it will not be business as usual. And secondly, is to also create the enabling environment for the public to build trust. And I hope that the new chairman will find opportunity to engage stakeholders. When I mean stakeholders in the countries, citizens, civil society, private sectors, because these are the people that actually go compromise the public officials. And it will also be very good for CCB to be proactive, taking into consideration the fact that awareness raisings, creating opportunity for the public to be able to assess officials of the CCB is very fundamental for its success. So our expectations are very clear. The chairman should, again, define what he would like to be remembered for after his tenure. Because at the end of the day, he should know that he owns Nigeria the duty to at least give how he intends to turn around the public image of this government. Because, as I said earlier on, the level of trust for government is going down. And if you just see the recent report just released by the Governance Index report, for Ibrahim index, you see that Nigeria have gone down 3 points below where we were before. And this is not very good for the country. And the credibility of the institutions that will have helped to drive governance reform, they are not working to expectation. And that's the reason why you see that Nigerian appearing in the governance index is not going very well. Take, for example, the anti-corruption index, the Transparency International index is not working. The anti-money laundering, Nigeria is already being put on the green list, and that is also not very good. So put all this together, it is good that CCB should know that they have enormous responsibility to help turn around the image of this government and the image of this country. And so that will also help again reposition the government agenda, because once this image problem is not addressed, it will be difficult for foreign investors to come into the country. And once foreign investors don't come into the country, you will not have new skills, you will not have new knowledge that will help drive the economic growth, that will help bring down poverty. And so the responsibility that rests with the chairman is huge. And you know, everything boils down to the leadership. He has to set the tone. You know, the politically exposed persons in the countries are very influential. And I also want to say that it is not just the responsibility of the chairman alone. All stakeholders should work together. And when I mean all stakeholders, the president of the country will ultimately provide the enabling environment for the chairman to operate very well. If the president sends the right signal, I can tell you that the chairman will deliver. And the public also have responsibility by raising awareness and all that.
Okay, thank you very much, Reverend David. Now back to you, Ibrahim Jallo. Reverend David has mentioned quite a lot of issues there, talking about the public image, how to make sure that we try to well. First of all, you talked about public trust, and now the image, to launder the image. Now, in your opinion, I haven't heard quite a lot of it. It's an uphill task for the new chairman. Having had quite a lot of issues in the past, bordering around corruption, public officials, and all of that. Now, in your view, what strategies do you think the new chairman, should adopt to hold public officers? Because in this case, they are more or less more culpable. What strategies can they adopt to hold public officers, more accountable? And to be transparent, and also for ethical behavior?
Well, Kiara, if you look at what has happened during the former chairman, one can vividly say there were a lot of things that were wrong. You don't castigate a leader that has passed due to this forum is not for it. But as a popular saying which says, too wrong will not make a right, we have now got a new person on board. Critically speaking, he will look at what has passed during the former administration, which I know, there were a lot of scandals, top to bottom. And this forum that you have invited us is not for mentioning names, but the records are there. So now, coming to your question, the first thing he will look at, what contribution, as rightly said by the Reverend, has he made to allow if he leaves that place, we will say, okay, the former chairman, Abdullahi, whoever, has left. Here, what I mean is that this law of CCB is targeted to Nigerians, particularly the working class. What sort of process will he now bring into force? As I have said, the law that establishes the code of conduct, there are a lot of lacunas in it. Now, you as a staff of NTA, is there any time the code of conduct said that please account yourself as somebody who works in NTA? Because by your integrity, tomorrow you'll be a minister. These records of cleanliness need to come first. Yes, by my code of conduct as a staff of NTA, I'm here for the past 10 to 20 years. But my records are static. That yes, what I'm earning and what I am having is commensurate to my salary. You see, the Oyibos that we are saying we want to learn from them is the integrity, the system. Our system is faulty. We don't value the law. We only have it in the books.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to stop you there. Reverend David, Ibrahim raised an issue here talking about integrity. And of course, back in the past, we've seen quite a lot of, like what he mentioned, you see someone earning a particular salary, but you see the asset he has is quite, there's no way you can see actually there's no correlation, because your salary is a particular amount and you're building houses worth millions and billions. So how can this new chairman, ensure, work towards ensuring that there's that public officials have integrity and there is, transparency and proper accountability, and of course, talking about working with other anti-corruption agencies, what form of collaboration should they have to ensure that corruption is reduced to the barest minimum within the public service?
Thank you again. I think this question is very important. Again, it brings to bear again that we need the leadership. That's why I said that if CCB will succeed, it also depends on the political environment. If the current leadership under President Tinubu provides the support, one of the things that have led to the failure of not succeeding with the fight against corruption is lack of coordination among the anti-corruption agency. So the president can make it as part of his agenda to ensure that there is anti-corruption agency like EFCC, ICPC, the NFIU, which is also very fundamental. They all work together because one single institution cannot deliver on tackling the problem of corruption. And so there needs to be interagency collaboration. And the Minister for Justice have to provide leadership on behalf of the President. And if you look at the laws that are in place today, there is sufficient provisions that will help the anti-corruption agency to keep an eye on public officials. For example, you talk about asset declaration. It's fundamental for any public officials to declare their asset. But the problem is that, do they follow the rules? That's the problem. And so But there are provisions within our anti-corruption laws. Law enforcement agencies need to use them, like the ICPC. There is what they call the unexplained wealth. When your wealth that you have, your asset you have, cannot correlate with the income that you have, agency like an ICPC or EFCC can work with CCB to ensure that such a public official is put. But somebody has to bring the information to the public. And whistleblowers need to also be given all the support. So that when you see a public officials, like what has happened in the country, we see that an auditor general has asset that was not commensurate with his income. That becomes a big problem. And so the federal government must provide the support. There must be interagency collaborations among the anti-corruption agency. And then 2, whistleblowers need to be protected. We need to put in place an enabling environment for whistleblowers to be saved when they blow the whistle on any public official. And if you look the CCB law that set it up, there is a provisions that made it very clear that public officials are not expected to take bribe or take any gift that will compromise their integrity. But they hardly followed that provisions in the law of CCB that set up CCB. And so the reason why that happened is because of immunity. Because of weak political support. That's why I said the political will is very fundamental for CCB to succeed. Today, the president make it as that all the anti-corruption agents in the country and government commitment to.
Okay, thank you very much. It appears we have a little network issue there. And just 30 seconds before we go, Ibrahim Jadlu, what is the role of the public in ensuring that the CCB fulfills its mandate under this new leadership?
You see, to bring you home, we have had a policeman that somebody forgot some dollars in Kano, in Kekenape, and the policeman took this money and it was aired, and the person came up and collected back his money, whereby this policeman was promoted. You remember one boy, not quite long, who had that type of attitude. But you see, money is a devil. Our system has not only corrupted the elites, but even a blind man, when you gave him 10 naira, please share it with your person, he will say, no, I was given 2 naira. So there is a need for a lot of sensitization.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time for you to, give us more on that. But this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thanks to Abdullahi Ibrahim Jallo, a lawyer and a public affairs analyst. Thank you for your contribution.
Well, I am always ready for you to impromptu ask me to come and
thank you so much. Thank you for
because I honor NTA, and NTA is for Africa and Nigeria, the world at large.
And vice, we had Reverend David Uwolo, is Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEJ. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being part of the program. Remember, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.
range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news. From the creeks of the Niger Delta to the breathtaking scenery of the plateau, in noonday and nighttime, we set out to bring to you captivating stories that evoke your emotions. For fascinating documentaries and reports on day-to-day issues with expert analysis, tune in to NTA News 24, DSTV Channel 419, GoTV Channel 26, StarTimes Channel 101 and 433, and Free TV Channel 703. Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. With our digital format and wide range, we can...
This is the network service of the NTA.
The Bible Society of Nigeria will host future leaders, the youth of Africa and the globe at its ongoing 11th African Biblical Leadership Initiative International Conference. Theme: Arise and Shine, raising a new generation of transformational leaders. Venue: NAF Conference Center, Abuja. Date: Thursday, October 24, 2024. Time is 9 a.m. prompt. Special guest of honor: His Excellency Barrister Caleb Mutfwang, Governor of Plateau State. The assembly will be addressed by His Excellency General Dr. Yakubu Gowon, GCFR, Grand Patron, BSN. Keynote speaker, Professor Vishal Mangawadi. Also speaking is Brigadier General Y.D. Ahmed, Director General, NYSC, and many others. It's a youth assembly with a future in view. All YouTube register at abli.biblesociety-nigeria.org. For inquiries, call Grace 070-315-80684 or John 080-646-92749. Abli Nigeria 2024, raising value-based leaders.
The federal government of Nigeria wants vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime, punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
One choice, multiple styles, all big, all unique.
At Home Options, you're welcome to a world of elegance, where every corner whispers sophistication. Step into our showroom and indulge your senses with our timeless designs and craftsmanship, from plush sofas to magnificent dining tables that host lifetime celebrations. Our collections, the hallmark of luxury. Create your haven with exclusive bedroom selections and turn your sanctuary into a realm of refined tranquility. When it comes to bathroom solutions, our stylish fixtures, lavish tubs and showers are crafted for your well-being, transforming your daily routine into a ritual of indulgence. At Home Options, we provide lifestyle solutions. So visit our showrooms in Lagos and Port Harcourt, because your space deserves to mirror your impeccable taste. Home Options. Live well.